Good morning and a happy Christmas. Has anyone ever said, "Welcome to my world," to you? It's not only the title of that golden oldie Jim Reeves song, it's also a phrase you hear in general conversation from time to time, said by someone who has lots of experience of a situation to someone surprised by or struggling to cope with that situation when they encounter it for the first time. I have heard it used as a put down, meaning, now you are experiencing something of what I have to cope with all the time. More constructively, it can be an entry to a conversation to help the inexperienced person grasp the complexities of the situation and gain some understanding of how and why things are as they are. In that sense, welcome to my world is what God was saying to Job. Now, whatever our individual situations, I think it's fair to say that Job was having a worse time than we are. His crops, his animals, his servants and workers have died or been carried off by raiding parties. His 7 children and their families have all been killed in a building collapse. And he is covered in loathsome sores. He is confused and angry with God. Why do so many bad things happen to a good person? And let's be clear, God agrees that Job is a good person. God doesn't give Job a direct answer. Instead, his response is to list for Job some of the challenges of overseeing the world. And then, in the passage we've just heard, to challenge Job to tell God if he, Job, can defeat the wicked or overcome and tame the destructive forces of evil personified in Leviathan. Now, Leviathan in the Old Testament, as well as being a terrifying sea serpent, symbolizes extraordinary and frightening negative power, encouraging disorder and turmoil in the world, and in many ways is a parallel to Satan in the New Testament. In the face of God's questioning, Job backs down, because he knows he does not have the power to do these things, and he admits that God is sovereign, and that God's will cannot be thwarted. God points out 2 things to Job. 1, the world does not revolve around Job. And 2, actually, God does not do a bad job of controlling forces that oppose his purposes in the world. And Job would not be able to do any better. God says, "Welcome to my world," to Job, by showing him that the world is deeper and more dangerous than allowed for by the simplistic theology of Job and his friends. But before we shake our heads at their understanding, I think it's fair to say it's not uncommon in the Western Church, particularly among those who are better off and more secure, to hold a theology which expects only blessings to accrue to the faithful who live what are seen as holy lives, and consequently to be knocked off course by disaster. When someone near to us is severely injured or killed in an accident or weather event, or succumbs to cancer or other life-limiting disease, we desperately want an answer to that question. But just as God did not give Job an answer to the problem of suffering, he doesn't offer us one either. Instead, the good news is that God did not leave us to face this uncertain and terrifying world alone. In a stable in Roman-occupied Bethlehem some 2,000 years ago, a teenaged mother cradled her newborn son, Jesus. she could well have whispered in his ear, "Welcome to your world." Yes, God Almighty, in the person of Jesus Christ, entered in the flesh into the world he had made. And Jesus brought not only a message of personal reconciliation with God, but also of the overthrow of Leviathan, working toward that final victory by bringing peace and justice and relief to the downtrodden. As he declared in the synagogue in Nazareth, "The Lord has anointed me. He has sent me to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and release for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour." That's Luke chapter 4, and he's quoting Isaiah 61. Jesus involved himself personally in the battle for justice and peace. And his ministry modelled for us the way we, as his children, are to continue that mission, battling, as the letter to the church of Ephesus puts it, not against enemies of flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Job's story gives us a more accurate understanding of the forces of darkness in the world than is normally available to us with our 21st century lives of certainty and material comfort, and our acceptance of the stories we are told of how society should function. But if we are honest, we, like Job, would still love to understand why the world is as it is, why evil prospers, why good people suffer. But as we've seen, God provides neither Job nor us with a direct answer to that question. Instead, God greets us. "My child, welcome to my world." And he asks, "Will you trust me? Will you trust me with your life in this age and the next?" And if we are willing, he then says, "Come, put your hand in mine, and let's walk together into the future with hope and expectation, and work together towards that time when Leviathan and all evil will be finally defeated, and the earth will be filled with the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea." Amen.